Let's get into it. We're going to kick things off as we get started in game number 1 of this best of 3, the second half of the day here in the Katowice qualifier. In the bottom left-hand side, we are going to be beginning with our Vanguard player, Clem.
And in the top right, as our red Infernal player, he is Kelazhur. The colors are not correct on the board, and this is going to confuse me.
Fix no, I think.
Nice. Already starting off fantastic. We'll get used to it. Fortunately, our different races, so that makes it easier. But I know it's the time in which we talk about, perfect, now it's all fixed. Talk about Stormgate, but, you know, we have been able to watch some of these guys today already play out. Clem pretty much playing, like, Vanguard as you would Terran. Kelazhur maybe, you know, being forced to play a little more of the Infernal rather than a Terran style, of which he actually is maining in StarCraft 2. But I would say that when you go and look at these two names, as a StarCraft 2 person, you're like, all right, action, you know, like potential like Doom drops and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I still think that in Stormgate, this is some of what we're going to see between the two. A lot of multitasking, a lot of map control. We got those drops that have Doom in the name, I suppose, anyway. And it could be very exciting. But Kelazhur, maybe... I don't know, maybe plays more to the standard Infernal strategy where Clem still is trying to make those Hedgehogs work. So we'll see like if the strategy, if the practice of the actual Stormgate game is what proves to be the best winning strategy, I suppose.
Well, you know, I feel like Kelazhur, having watched a lot of the games today and seen these Infernal drops all the time, I'm like, man, that's such a Kelazhur thing though, right? Because to me,
Yeah.
Kelazhur is the guy that really is going to go all out, drop you everywhere, try and multitask. And so if you get some of those gaunt drops on the go, to me, that super suits kind of Kelazhur's playstyle from SC2. Clem has been fun to watch today, as we heard in the intro. Less dog, more hog has been his strategy, as he's going to try and dog it up right now. They're looking for surround on the first haunt. And he's going to get some good damage off here. That first one's in trouble, although our dogs are not looking too healthy. We're going to get one kill, and then we're going to get out. And we don't lose a thing from Clem.
Oh, nicely done. Yeah, all three dogs actually left alive there. Grabs a gaunt and gets the heck out. Okay, well, there finally one dog actually did go down. Fiend coming from behind, adding into the army size, I suppose. Really won that last one, too. These are all speedy units. Things will eventually slow down, particularly on the Infernal side, as, you know, the ripping apart and the mass Fiend strategy seems to have died down a little bit. But for the Vanguard, go, 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 fast, fast, fast. Then you add Clem's micro into it, and it's going to be nonstop.
Yeah, just going to try and grab an MPS, though. We're going to actually turn it onto the Gaunts once again. Good surround, going to get one. Looking for another. We're going to grab 2 kills here. And again, we're getting out without too many losses, although there is some of the kills going down and the Fiends spawning out those dogs post-infestation.
Yeah, of course, Clem is also expanding behind this guy, so this was a little bit more of a committed aggression opener, but it has worked out pretty well. I mean, tons of Gaunts have gone down. Now perhaps the Imps are going to go down as well, and just consistent vision, too, to tell him exactly where he has to avoid, you know, the next Gaunt that might have just popped out, or even just to go ahead and sick the dogs on it, right? Exactly like that. Oh, finally another dog will go down, and 2 more are very, very weak. Winning that last one will get the last one at the consequence of all but 1 dog. So I feel the aggression from the dogs early on has finally ended, but with 1 alive, that's still a little bit of scouting, and overall Kelazhur probably gritting his teeth a little bit at the micro and harassment potential of his opponent.
Man, we never really get to see Clem use melee units in StarCraft, right? But he has shown us the danger he could be with them, because he has been great with these units early on, and again, realizing what fights he can take. He's just getting some good chomps down from those scouts and being able to get so much out of them. So much value early, and yes, he was a little bit later to expand, but definitely feels like he got the value out of it as he comes in now, worker harassing once again, slowing this economy on the natural. The more he does this, the more he gets out of this opening overall, as we are going to maybe lose 1 more dog here. That Fiend should help a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I love this for Clem, as it feels like it's been great for him so far. He's going to try and hit this a little bit more at the front. The Fiend is trying to put some damage out, and there's still Imps just not mining here throughout the entirety of this harassment LCG.
Yeah, exactly. This is all lost mining time that we're seeing here, plus, of course, the innate building mechanic of the Infernal, sacrificing an Imp every time. So even that Shroud Stone that's eventually going to finish and really cease the harassment is, of course, a consequence. It's another Imp gone. But as I said, the dogs have lessened the amount of harassment as time has gone on, despite the consistent rallying. And I do wonder how Clem is going to follow this up, how quickly he is going to follow this up. Kelazhur, you know, he's stabilized, but it already feels pretty good on the side of the aggressor, especially because map control is such a big thing. Kind of a sneaky base, though, kind of come off to the right side. Kelazhur sneaking that in. Of course, Clem doing the same thing. A very fast expansions in Stormgate is certainly what I've been picking up, but the harassment, should it have seen that imp going over there, could have obviously stalled that out. It didn't.
Because I think taking 2 expansions as well, right? So really just saying like, hey, let's go 4 bases. I've been slowed down a little bit early, but it's time to turn that around. As Clem will take a moment to drop down this resource camp, grab himself some extra money to work with on his follow-up. And, you know, you mentioned map control. It means so much, but of course in Stormgate with those creep camps, it means you can get so many of the camps as well. So you work through all of that. So many benefits from kind of opening aggressively rather than just being like, oh yeah, I'm going to sit back and just kind of chill. And so kind of, you know, a reason to fight for map control early.
And something that Clem has taken advantage of. We got the resource camp being taken on Kelazhur's side of the map, the vision camps being taken, plus just the ability to patrol dogs and howl as well. So that means that he will be able to see a lot coming through the map, but again, he did not actually get sight on the expansion off to the right side or the left. Now he's building up to, you know, the next step of the army. Dogs very much like if there's a before tier 1, tier 0.5, I guess, because you get one automatically. We've been on that, but now back into the tier 1. There's the scout on the base, but Shroudstone already prepared. Not going to be easy for any harassment to go down, but perhaps an actual focal point of a battle. Oh, well, the focal point's going to be back at home, of course. Kelazhur going for the Gaunt drop is on top of the Bobs that are overcharged, and a Lancer or two is going to come over here and try and help out. Not a whole lot of Fiends being produced, and the evacuation will have to happen. Actually, just kind of put it down and then came up there. Yeah. There we go.
Took a little while to actually decide to get out of there this time around, but make it happen in the end as the Lancers will continue to try and zone out that drop ship and just make sure that Kelazhur can't get too much more done with this. This is what I thought Kelazhur was going to kind of leap towards pretty much straight away. As we come back over here, and Clem continuing to zone out. Let's drop down once again. We've got the Brood in the front is going to be taking some of that damage. The Gaunts in the low ground hitting up and really looking to try and grab some of those Bobs. Which, of course, once they get infested, they turn into Fiends. And this is where the snowball effect begins in a situation like this. You need units here. Clem was busy splitting some units down to the low ground, and he is finally going to start getting this better controlled.
Exactly. That's why those Bobs were vulnerable for a hot second, is that he was trying to split the units, take care of this. No anti-air as of yet, and even if he did have exos, yeah, they just don't shoot, you know, the air particularly well, so this is an annoyance. You know, this is absolutely something that highlights a player like Kelazhur. If Clem could get to the equivalent as fast, 100%, he would be doing the same thing, but it doesn't necessarily happen that fast for the Vanguard. So this tracking this very obnoxious Doombringer, some real justice being done for Kelazhur, how to deal with all that dog harassment. And keep in mind, this is why Kelazhur is working off of 4 bases, as Clem is now the one losing mining time and having to think about how he's going to handle this, and not really thinking about how he gets a 4th base up.
You know, what I'm learning from this EG is we need an upgrade for the dogs that let them jump up and, you know, grab onto air units, because it's so sad. We had dogs to start, now there's no dogs. I feel like the game's a worse place when there's not dogs on the map.
Although I am glad they're not dying. I mean, I know they're robots, but...
When you repaired it earlier, I was like, wow, you repair the dog, it doesn't die, and you get to pat it as you do take a fight here. Lancers surrounding the Mastodon, but the Mastodons do so much. The trampling AoE is getting so much damage, and the Lancers do not stand a chance. And Kelazhur showed up in the middle of the map with that army, and Clem is running for the hills.
Yeah, those Magmadons did exactly what they hoped to do, and the thing is that we're not an exos. Yeah, Clem's just gonna tap out, actually. Yeah, Kelazhur, such a frustrating first 2 minutes of the game, but then really was quick to recover. The double expansion into the proper technology, of course, the drop happening consistently, actually was quite masterfully played, right? That was like bing, bang, boom, like you had practiced that. But Clem just felt like, first of all, Clem felt like he was trying to adapt the Stormgate mid-series, which is understandable because he had just finally lost against a more experienced Stormgate player. So he was like, okay, what do people actually do? Not go Hedgehogs? Okay, great. But then not able to move on to a better composition, because those Lancers can tank for you, but it's the Exos that really show off the speed versus surround that Infernal versus Vanguard typically comes down to. But, you know, just literally butting heads like that, especially with such a inferior army count, yeah, Kelazhur just played that masterfully.
Yeah, I feel like Clem really stalled out. Like the first time we got off the scouts, it felt like, okay, here's our Lancers, right? And they were ready to go to kind of start with the drop, and then nothing else really felt like it came online for Clem, you know? Like, where was the next follow-up beyond that? And without that, Kelazhur had been teching up, and he takes that first fight, which in the middle of the map really was just decisive, and allows us to go to a 1-0 lead for Kelazhur, of course. So, Kella getting it done early on, and Clem, I feel like you should go back to the Hedgehog ZG. I did patent the Hedgehog build about 2 months ago. So,
Sure.
if you learn from a master, I can understand the decision to go back.
I mean, honestly, to really analyze it, there is absolutely a choice here for some of these players who didn't get a chance to play as much. To
Hmm.
do you try and adapt to the strategies, or do you try and just focus on what you're good at? And for Clem, there is a fortunate combination of that with the dogs. That is something that Stormgate, like that's a thing, that's a build that Stormgate does, but it's also something that Clem would love to do as well. But then beyond that, what you're kind of expected as the Vanguard to do might be a little more uncomfortable. Clem, every time you have a split-second decision that your mind has to calculate, you just are slower. And Clem's known for being a fast player. People always think that just means that he's, hyped up on drugs or something and like caffeine and he's just really fast. Well, maybe. But it also means that he just can think of the next step really fast. Not something that he can necessarily do in Stormgate, which he is more uncomfortable with.
I never had that thought, ZG, but I'm glad you have. As we jump into Secluded Grove for game number 2 of this best of 3. Down a map in the top right, as I read, Vanguard is going to be Team Liquid's Clem.
I've actually never seen him drink caffeine, so he's just
Me neither.
naturally that fast. Yeah. In the bottom left, as the blue Infernal player, he is Kelazhur.
First dog shows up, and as we run into the base, and we look for an opportunity to try and find some early damage. And of course, just scouting, already seeing which workers are going to split up where and figure out what the economy looks like on the side of Kelazhur. In those first few moments, gather a little bit of info. And of course, just be annoying, try and force some lost mine time. Another imp leaving our resources here. It's always going to kind of hurt a little bit.
Yep. And we have a very different build from Clem, who didn't mine any of that accessory resource. Therium is going to go for a fast expand, supercharging the Bob so they build faster. And it is possible that, because he has practiced, he has certainly, I think, talked to people about it too, because he was at the Team Liquid facility training camp. It is possible that he was like, okay, the dogs didn't do enough. And, this is where just like fully admitting, I think you're in the same boat, Wardy. Judging that type of stuff is going to be very difficult for us. We're kind of brand new to this as well. And it's possible that Clem just said, that wasn't enough denied mining. That wasn't enough kills. And so he's going to try a different approach. Because the strategy didn't work out, it's also possible that he is just going back to what he likes. And we're going to see Hedgehogs as well.
I just cannot get through the image of every time a Bob repairs a scout. I'm just like, he's giving him the best little ear scratches. Like, what a life. I don't know why this has not taken my notice all day, but the moment I start casting, I'm like, he's getting such a good doggo rub right there.
Did you cast, or not cast, obviously, did you play Command and Conquer?
No.
Oh, what? Okay, ruined. All right, fine. Well, I just remember I'd always play, I think it was Ukraine actually, but there was 3 factions that had the dogs.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, they're so cute, and they have like the cute sounds when they go and do stuff, and then they jump on humans and they bite their heads off, and they're so cute. And then when they die, it's just absolutely devastating, and I never once played Command & Conquer past that point. My dogs die, that's it.
That sounds like the worst. Yeah, tap out. Get out of that, don't cause any unnecessary pain. As expansions come up from either side, of course, Clem rushed up to his. So, much more eco-focused. Beginning from the very get-go here, just wants to try and match rather than try and put himself behind, but then, gain from that kind of unit build which he gets going. Which means that, map control is going to be a little bit harder to come by because he doesn't have a bunch of dogs on the map. Just yet, at least. And you does see the gaunts building up at the front from Kelazhur.
Yeah, Hedgehogs. I think this is the way to go. I think we'd be seeing something similar if this was actually just a StarCraft 2 match in which, for instance, recently Cyclones have been a meme. So, if someone is uncomfortable with them, don't play them because you're not comfortable with them. So, in this case for Clem, it's like he's comfortable with Hedgehogs. He likes playing the fast strategies. Go for it. Maybe your mechanics and multitasking will overpower whatever, the Hedgehogs are going to be weak to. One just doing a little bit of tippy-tap with the dog as well. Gets surrounded, unfortunately, and the Hedgehog hasn't found too much success yet, but I believe more are rallying through the middle of the map.
Yep, the more that you get to, the more annoying you can be. You kind of get a couple shots off, you just kite away. That's what the Hedgehogs are great at. Looks a little wacky when they're doing their 360 spins. They are like the epitome of 360 no-scopes, EG. They're like, we got this, and now we're going to style on you. Because if you pick up the first Gaunt and coming back in, you can see Clem once more, but the Gaunts being able to shoot from afar really does help them in kind of shutting down this Hedgehog harassment, which is going to come from a different angle, but there's only so much that can be done. As Clem continues to get production set up back at home, and is actually harassing this attempted forward expansion here from Kelazhur.
Yeah, I mean, I want to believe in the Hedgehogs. It feels like it caught the eye of many a Terran player, honestly, because you apparently liked them, Nathanius loved them.
Oh, yeah.
I was okay with them, but
it was really funny because it was like I was like, I'm gonna try opening like 2 Hedgehogs in pressure, and I was like, if they expand, I'll make a few more. And basically, my strategy over the course of the day was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep building Hedgehogs no matter what they do, you know? Expand one base. I'm just going to build one more Hedgehogs. You know what? Let's start proxying the Hedgehogs as well, because then they get across the map sooner. It was really just a day of realizing that, yeah, Hedgehogs can be a very fun unit. As Clem does grab the vision camp here, that's obviously a big deal because being able to see up that high ground is really nice. Gets over here, gets the base kill as well, as though although the drop comes in and close the round is going to stop the escape, and the Hedgehogs are stuck in the ground.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Didn't realize that was going to, I guess, backstab, basically. Probably figured that was going to try and still go for the attack, because he certainly saw it, but that was unfortunate indeed. A denied base as Clem takes his own, but now what does his army look like? Still just relying on these Hedgehogs. Now, I mean, if there is a critical mass, obviously that's been pushed off for some time. Not a whole lot of static defense back at home either once this drop comes into effect. I think it is going on that natural base of Clem, which, yeah, has no defense, so he's too busy microing.
Yep, he's going to get over here and deal with this as the Hedgehogs will go hunting down. Of course, he can siege the Hedgehogs up, which puts them into that anti-air mode. And then that is going to be maybe one way to actually help shut down the drop from moving around, unlike what we saw last time around where the drop was untouchable. And so Kelazhur could just constantly hunt for another opportunity or another location to play from. So a little bit of a difference to that previous game. It's, yeah, everything else looking pretty cozy.
Yeah, it's actually not too bad. I really am not a believer in Hedgehogs, I guess. So I was kind of wondering if Kelazhur was once again just going to show up and demolish them, but we're not quite at that point yet. The Doombringer there, stuck in the top right, I guess cannot escape, so that's certainly awkward. But Clem also no longer applying that pressure with the Hedgehogs because they are trying to guard against that. So both players getting expansions up this time around at a very similar time. Clem was locked in on 3 base last game. Oh, okay, they can't escape. I mean, they do have the siege to shoot air, so
yeah.
Seemed like it would have been possible.
Yeah, well, it looks as though they're going to get out, so drop gets away. Hedgehog's just moving all over the place, and I mean, Kelazhur is already just continuing to kind of set up around the bottom side, knocking down the speed camp. Mobility is extremely important in RTS games, so being able to get some speed is a pretty wonderful thing.
It's a very good thing, actually. It was even quite, let's say quite good at the beginning of Stormgate.
I remember when we first played Stormgate, when we first got access to like the pre-alpha, and everyone was like, hey, turns out if you get the first speed camp, you win the game, you know? Nobody could really play against that. Everyone was building dogs, and some people had faster dogs. Turns out that's pretty good for kiting.
Yes, that quite literally was my game that I played versus Scarlet for approximately 2 minutes. Had one faster dog, and I was like, well, okay, yeah. Kelazhur finally ready to go out on the map here. He's got the army, but it's against Hedgehogs this time, which, I mean, talk about speedy units. They are not going to be easily stopped. The thing is that they're not necessarily going to be killing a lot, I would suspect, at least not the Magmadons that quickly. And of course, while they're kiting and trying to do their best here, a lot of the Bobs are being forced to get off of mining, mass repair that turret. And how are things actually going? It looks like with the turret especially, we are going to have a pseudo hold, but Clem's army is very injured. We finally have some adaptation, no longer just Hedgehogs, some Lancers on the front too.
Yeah, that Vulcan in the back as well, right? So just being able to finally get something extra set up as Clem has expanded down over here at the same time. So he's starting to draw himself out and about on the map, right? He's really stretching himself across the entirety of Secluded Grove. And that's kind of important to note because that may be something that Kelazhur can abuse with the drops. That's the one thing we've seen from Kelazhur. Now you drop up into the main base. Obviously, we do have turrets around, so things look a little bit better than they did maybe earlier. As we drop down, we'll get some of these bobs, and then perhaps could just lift up very quickly afterwards, right? That turret's going to take a long time to kill a Magmadon, and that's the problem. And obviously, as you kill bobs, you get more buffer to kind of buffer against this turret, so that works out as well. As the Hedgehog show up, they clean up, but, I mean, that was a lot of the bobs lost, pretty much all of them on the Ethereum there.
Yeah, exactly. So very annoying. Hopefully you do remember to get back to actually mining that, if that's what you need. But we are adding in a tech from Clem, so I suspect that is exactly what he means. Yeah, the Vulcans coming in as well. So we're moving on to, a different composition, which I think is going to work out better for Clem. But we'll see just how that dynamic works against Kelazhur, who really is going, I feel like, with the standard Infernal composition, working very well if you can catch up to the Vanguard army. Again, this is usually what it comes down to, is kind of the micro ability of Vanguard versus the Infernals having a couple of, obnoxious spells, obnoxious abilities, and the consistent Doombringer harassment that really, if it does go unchecked, yeah, the Gaunts getting all these fiends, it can absolutely snowball. This was kind of close to the army, so not going to snowball here, but just so persistent. Clem hasn't gotten on Kelazhur's side of the map in some time.
Very aptly named, the Doombringer, because it really does bring doom to a lot of these worker lines. They are definitely struggling against those today. As Clem, I do wonder how he's going to spread his army out to kind of deal with, again, the fact that all these bases, if that Doombringer drop stays up at the top. Plus, now we've got these Hellborns in here as well. They're going to be shooting from afar. If they can stay in the back and let everything else do the tanking, the damage output here potential from Kelazhur is quite high. So let's see, as Clem is going to deal with the drop on his third base. Kelazhur is pushing towards the entrance to the fourth, and this is getting dangerous. As the Hedgehogs, you see there, very nearly getting the Doombringer. It gets away with only 20 HP remaining.
Yeah, we did have some Magmadons in there. Mastodon's literally a thing. Magmadons in there that can, eviscerate the Bob worker lines. That is very, very scary. The mobility here for Kelazhur actually working out just because he is so good at distracting Clem. So yeah, the army's derping, but it's kind of slow in general. Derping around these trees, which I imagine will start to be torn down as well with the trample soon-ish, but we've actually surpassed the early game. Clem got bopped so early on last game that I am more and more inclined to believe it was just the dog opener not being effective enough, but couldn't really tell you 100%. But now we have a proper mid-game, and we just need to see the actual battle commence, because it again is Clem following the harassment around. Kelazhur feeling like he's leading Clem by the nose a little bit. Things might start to change, especially as the middle becomes the contested point.
I feel like those things are just so happy when they're trampling around, just like having their best, living their best life. Wait, really? We can just go crazy? We can just do whatever we want? Oh my god, we get to break down the trees. Like, I can just imagine them as like very big, oversized, very happy doggos.
Yeah, well, like
CG.
apparently rhinos are actually kind of cute, right? Like hippos are terrifying, but rhinos are kind of cute. So I can imagine if a rhino was like, "Yeah, go stop all over those trees," it'd be like,
okay then.
Yeah, he's cute. The more that I think the units are cute, the more that I really feel for them when they die. Makes me a very emotional commentator.
I'm sorry, I'm getting you to invest in the unit CG.
You are actually. Magmadons are literally supposed to just like run forward and try and trample to slow everything down, and we'll do AoE. But now I'm like, no, save yourselves. These are like when the horses die in war movies. No.
We break through the trees to get onto this base, and it feels like Clem is all clumped up. These guys trample all over them. The Hellbombs from afar just doing so much damage, and the Gaunts adding damage into this as well. The Vulcans in the back getting some chance to build up that spinning attack, but I just do not see this being enough. As Kelazhur sits on top of this location, continues to fire from afar. He's starting to lose out on his Mastodons, but his Magmadons, as they go down, maybe it's a little bit scary, but it seems like he just has too much DPS anyways. He's done the work he needs to. He doesn't really need it. He actually has 3 up at the top anyways. So yeah, looks good for Kelazhur as this break is broken on down.
Yeah, that's a lot of Infernal left over. It kind of worked out well for him. He had such a mass of units, was able to jump actually on top of the Vanguard army, and then had the layers. The parfait was perfect. You had the front line attacks, the Magmadons trampling everything that they could, a Weaver even coming in for any important unit snag. Now we have a Dragon, which, is just, that's kind of be the GG move. Yep, exactly that, actually. But again, yeah, the layers were fantastic with the Hellborns able to do maximum damage in a rather clumped up area, too. So Yeah, Clem might have lasted longer in that second game, but I think at the end of the day, it was still evident that as far as reads went, Kelazhur was better at them.
Yeah, Kelazhur. I feel like Clem both games kind of stalled out after his initial like he got from dogs to lances okay in game one, and then it felt like he stalled a little bit, right? And he just didn't get to the next step. In his next game, it felt like he got a good few hedgehogs, and then it felt like he only really had hedgehogs for a while. And then eventually, after he'd already taken a bunch of damage and things had kind of gone a bit wrong, he finally had a Vulcan or two starting to show up. And so it just felt as though it was just a little bit too late to kind of get to the next step of everything for Clem in both of these games. So